Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Regina and Friends Crime Chat. Tonight, with us, we're going to have a very special guest. Um, we are going to have Eve, uh, Troy Alexandria Strope's aunt, with us in an interview. Um, Today is Troy Strope's birthday. Um, Happy birthday, Troy. So, here we go. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Tonight, with us, we have a very special guest. We have Eve Dillman. Hello, Eve. Eve. This is Troy Alexandria Strope's aunt, and we have been covering Troy's case um, since the beginning, since the day she was found. And her family has been gracious enough to come up and tell us about Troy on, of all days, Troy's birthday. Um, and she's here with us. Um, are you there, Eve? You're muted, beautiful. Your mic is. There it
One,
is.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, Eve. Hello, and welcome.
Thank you.
So, first of all, I want to say how sorry I am for your loss. Um, I know that I don't know Troy, but I feel like I've gotten to know her in her writings and from the testimonies of other people that have known her. And I would just like to say that I know that she was a very loving person of her family. And I promise you, she is smiling down on y'all on her birthday. I know she is. And I hope that you guys find justice and comfort, and anything we can do to help, we're here for.
I appreciate that. I want you to know that my husband and I are also Troy's godparents.
Yes.
So she is my niece as well. And we're her godparents. And she was living with us when she was a little girl with her mom and dad, who are now both deceased. And she was a mother herself, as you know, of three beautiful children.
Beautiful children. I've been blessed enough to see pictures of them. Gorgeous children.
Yeah. And they are precious. They are all very special, and this is the most horrific thing for them to endure.
I know. I know. I couldn't imagine. I just. It's never easy losing someone, but it's even harder losing them under these circumstances. I understand. I do.
Absolutely. When we left the memorial, we said there was no closure. Normally, when you leave a memorial, you go home and you grieve your stuff in private, and you're have some acceptance of the loss. But at this memorial, we left with more questions than we had, and there was never any closure or feeling of acceptance. It is just unbelievably horrific. And all we want is justice. All we want is answers. And we are trying everything we can to get that.
Right. And that's kind of why we're doing this interview and stuff, because there's a lot going on in her case. But let's start from the beginning first, because today is also a little bit of a celebration of who Troy was. So I have I'll start with the questions now, if that's okay with you, Eve.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about Troy and give us some of your favorite times with her?
So, Troy was a beautiful person. She had a great sense of humor. She was absolutely gorgeous in her looks. She always had a smile on her face, and she was always kind to anyone she came in contact with. She was a very sweet hearted person. She would help anybody, even if she didn't have it herself to give. She would share whatever she had. She was just a good person with a really good heart.
And what was, if you had to narrow down your favorite time or to a couple of times with her, what would they have been? What are your fondest memories?
Well, Troy lived with us when she was very young, so I have a lot of young memories where she was a blast as a child, joking around. And um, I sent you a picture of her playing with my dad and her cousin. And my husband actually brought it to my attention that all three of the people in the picture are deceased.
Yeah, I have it. I have it, and I'll share it. But I couldn't flip it. I couldn't get it flipped before the show.
Oh,
Um,
it's fine.
but I would like to share that.
That's one
So,
of my favorite things, to see my dad laughing with her and her giggling with him, and
oh,
the other cousin. And my other favorites are her, just running to me and to Eve. And so they lived with us for a while, with her mom and dad when they were younger, when they were first getting going. And then Troy lived in the Chicagoland area till she was about 10. Then she moved to Arkansas. And of course, once she moved, beautiful. Even if it's sideways, it's still
I
beautiful.
can
Y-
see Troy's right here. This is
y-
Troy.
yes. Do you see that smile on her face? That's how
Yes,
it
it's
always was.
unmistakable. Unmistakable.
She
Oh,
was you don't know it, but the little blonde haired kid in the picture that's watching them from the side is my son. Yeah.
yep.
And I
Oh,
was taking that picture because they were so having such a ball. I was like, I need to get some snapshots of this. But they my dad, he's deceased, I told you, and he lived in Arkansas when he died in Forest City.
oh
And
wow. Yeah.
then Troy and Kenny is my sister Sarah's son, and he lived near my dad a lot of the time. So these three were extremely close. And Kenny died a young man as well, but not vicious attack or um, murder. Um, but
Right.
Troy, she always had sayings, and she always had she was a bit of a clowner. She liked to mess around a lot and laugh a lot. And one of the things she used to say is, "I'm no boo boo the fool." And so, somebody referred to that recently in a text, and I could hear her saying it. I'm no boo boo the fool. So uh,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, um,
What a
br-
phrase. I'm no boo boo the fool.
yeah, it brings tears to my eyes. And it does.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to bring tears to my eyes, but
Bless your heart. Well, y'all have been through so, so much. I mean, I couldn't, I don't know. I don't know how I would even cope going through what y'all have been through. And again, I'm so, so sorry for your loss of Troy, because just in what I've read and what little bit I've gotten to know her as a person through her Facebook posts and stuff, she was beautiful. She had a courageous heart and she was beautiful. Like it seemed like she cared about everybody.
And she did.
The
There
kind of
was an
person,
elder there was
go
an
ahead.
elderly woman in Forest City that would see Troy on her bike. And if she was sitting on her porch, Troy would go there and talk to her. And so the elderly woman noticed that if she wasn't out on her porch, Troy didn't stop. So she started timing the time of day that Troy would be out there coming by so she could be on the porch so Troy could come and talk to her.
Oh, she was a sweetheart. So that
Yeah.
kind of brings us. That kind of brings us what you were saying about Bobo the Fool kind of thing. That kind of brings us to our next question, which is, um, if you could describe Troy in a single sentence, what would it say?
So she was a trooper and she would try to get justice for anyone that if this was happening to somebody she knew. She would be there for them. That's the
Absolutely.
kind of heart she had, and she would give it all she had, and that's why we can't fail her.
Yeah. I've talked to several people, even outside of y'all, even people in Forest City, being there for court and stuff. And everyone that I've talked to that knew Troy said she had a smile for every person who crossed her path.
This is true.
Um, can you tell us a little bit more about the love of her children and her family and friends?
Yep. She never had it easy. She married young. She was raising three young children, which many of us have done. I did it myself young, but it's a hard thing. The younger you are, the harder it is. And she made some questionable decisions and was trying to go back to a good life. She stopped many of her choices and she ran out of time because she was taken from us. She never got to prove those uh, things completely. She was on the right road, but she just never made it there.
I got goosebumps right now. I'm sorry. Um,
Yep.
wow. What's your, you know how you say Troy had such a good sense of humor?
Yeah.
What's your funniest memory of her?
Well, I can't like come up with an actual she was always just messing around, playing and um trying to make people laugh, and it wasn't any one thing, it was everything. She was
Kind of like the class
always,
clown?
yeah, kind of. She's like the friend and family and everybody she came across. She was like joking with them. Um, she's always trying to make the best of a situation and always playing and joking. And so I don't have any one particular thing other than the day with my dad clowning and really getting him giggling so hard. My dad was laughing so hard his glasses were falling off, and he's never that. I mean, my dad was like Troy. He liked to have fun, but he was
Oh,
never in such joy as he was that moment.
you can see right here on their faces sheer joy. It's all sheer joy. It's
Oh yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, now you talk about the struggles that Troy was going through, um, but she was getting back on track.
Yeah.
How was she coming along with progress, and what would you say it was that stood in her way of getting there?
Well, some bad habits that she had stood in her way, and things that choices that she made. But we all make choices, and I wish she would have made different ones, as sometimes I wish I would have made different ones for my own life. But at the same time, I know that she was trying, and that was the main thing. She wanted to, live a good life, and it just never got to provision because, some of us learn sooner than later, and some of us later than sooner. So she, unfortunately, didn't get the later.
Right. She got robbed of it.
Yes.
She got absolutely robbed of it.
Yep.
Um, when and how did you find out? Like, I know it's probably surreal in time, but tell us about the day when and how you found out about Troy.
My phone was kind of blowing up from my sisters, and they were telling me that a tote was found on 731. And I said, and they said, and they think it might be Troy. And
Oh,
then, of course, we didn't find out till the DNA was, but I was talking to Lathan at the time, our son, who did have to go and give his DNA for proof. And I felt so bad for him because as a young man, that's a horrible thing. And
yes.
I really think that somebody else should have done it. But um, unfortunately, that's how it all came down. And I just, I was a mess. And I still can't believe it today. Like I couldn't believe it that day. Even hearing all the stuff that people are saying and what's on the streets there, we it's still unbelievable. Every aspect of it is unbelievable. How this could have happened, how somebody could do this to her, and how they're getting away with it is even worse.
It is. It absolutely is. Speaking um of that, um, is there anything in particular that you would like to tell us about Michael Lacey, what we should know about Michael Lacey and the whole circumstance or um surrounding what happened to Troy?
So, in the beginning, we heard that there were four involved, and I couldn't even believe that one person could do it, let alone four people. And then, as time went on, we heard even more horrific stories. As far as Lacey goes, I he's the first name that ever came across to us. Him and Corey and Smith. His name is actually street name Poncho Smith. The three that are charged, and all four of the names that we had heard are in the lockup in St. Francis County. Allegedly, there are a lot more involved. And I feel all involved should be put through what she went through. That's my own personal feeling. I don't think there's any justice that's going to be served to them because I was told point blank that the death penalty was never going to happen. So once I heard that, I was like, how can justice be served? Even if they rounded up all the people that we had heard did something or knew something, how could we get justice?
Right. Um. Oh, I just lost it. I had a follow up question on that. If you don't mind, I would like to ask a couple of questions about the actual timeline, if that's okay, real quick, to add in there that I meant
Sure,
to send you the questions on.
sure,
On y'all found out that the tote was found on the 20th, correct?
correct.
What day did you get the results back that it was in fact Troy?
I believe it's the 26th, is what Linda had written. For some reason, I thought it was only 3 days, but I believe Linda has it written as the 26th.
Okay. And whenever whenever they told you it was Troy, Was that before or after they had gotten all the forensic backs from the lab from the tote, other than her DNA?
So they ran her DNA against her son's DNA, and that's supposedly all they had at the time. So it would have been before forensics, before they even have, supposedly, they don't even have a full autopsy back, which um, I find hard to believe.
Right. And have they denied your family getting her autopsy results, partial or otherwise?
Yes, they told us that they're not giving us anything until um, all the appeals are done. At first, they said they were going to sit with us and talk, and then they said they would, once a full autopsy came back. But then the detective said they're not giving us anything until all the appeals are done.
Until all the appeals are done. Wow. And I know firsthand from calling and talking to a Mr. Bill, I'm not Bill, but Dale Arnold, that there is, in fact, a full confession that has been written and signed. And that's the sheriff told me. I mean, Mr. Arnold told me that himself whenever I called.
Yep,
Um,
and Travis Hill told me that.
okay. So I have a question. How many days after was the warrant served for Michael Lacey and they brought the forensics team in of the house? That was the 29th?
The 29th. Yep.
Wow. So either they had to have known, um, well, no, because after the 29th, they were still, I'm so confused right now.
So I'll give you a little clarity. First, he got arrested on the 2nd, and he was released on the 6th. He saw the judge on the 5th, and he got out on, I'm not sure if his bond was paid or his own recognizance. Then, while he was out, Troy got murdered on the 20th, sometime between the 6th and the 20th. I was told, or the court records say, the 1st through the 29th.
Right. But according to what I've heard, Troy
But
was
they
in contact with your family on the 2nd.
correct,
Okay.
correct. There was a
Okay.
phone call made from her. So we know that she was still alive when he was released.
Why do you think it is that they have only charged him? I think I know why, but what do you think the reasons are that they've only charged him with first-degree murder, which carries a minimum of a 30-year sentence or the death penalty?
So it's the same reason they have not arrested all of the other people
I
involved,
mean,
because
10
then
years.
it would have to be capital murder, which then would be the death penalty. But they're making it like he shot her and the other two did something to her after the fact, and it wasn't a group activity, which there has never been a story that we have heard, allegedly or otherwise, that suggests he was on his own.
Right. Well, I'll be honest with you. Whenever I was in Forest City covering Troy's case from the courtroom, there was a woman that sat behind me and said there's videos and stuff. Um, I don't know much about that, but I was told there is either one or two videos out there.
So I am the person who called Travis Hill to ask him if they are aware that there's videos out there. And he said, we are not aware of that. And I said, I gave him the information of how I got it and where it came from and the names for him to follow. And so then, probably about 2 weeks after, we were talking about the killing video. And he told me that he had the cleanup video. Now, having the
Oh,
cleanup video he says, and it was not at the Buford house. So that tells me
She
there's
was kidnapped.
another, there was another place. I don't know the details, but the video showed a cleanup. So, and he didn't say it didn't pertain to Troy. So, why would he even tell me we have the cleanup video if it didn't pertain to Troy? So, I asked him about the actual other video, which he told me they did not have yet. And I gave him more information of where he could find that video. But to my understanding, they already had it
Oh my
by
goodness.
things that they said and did. They have the video, and that's why they sealed the records, and that's why they are trying to stop us from finding out all the details. Because if we got a hold of that video, we would know everyone involved. And then they would have to charge everyone involved, and they would have to charge him with capital murder, because then they would know that she was in more than one place. There are three places: the first place where the cleanup was, the second place is the Buford house, and the third place is the tote on the 731. So
Right.
that's three places and more involved. So that should be capital one, and he should be able to get the death penalty.
Um, I know we brought this up in a phone call. I forgot to put it in the questions, but it's important for people to understand that this is, in fact, capital murder. With what you've been told pertaining to the cleanup video, that means that she was taken from place to place against her will, I can promise you, which makes it kidnapping. That makes it capital murder, right?
Correct? A
Now,
group
the hard,
activity makes a capital murder.
that too, yes.
Premeditated makes a capital murder. And if you move a person after she's shot, which is what we hear, that's why there was cleanup, it was blood, then most likely that's premeditated murder.
Absolutely. But there's more to it than just that. Um, she was found nude in the tote.
Yep.
Is have you I've heard stories, but is there anything that would lead you to believe that she was assaulted as well?
Oh, I'm sure that she was. And just the fact that I want you to think about this. Okay. Troy was a tall woman. She was about 5'10", and she probably weighed 120 to 130 pounds.
Right.
I want you to think about a 55 gallon tub tote that you can purchase at a store for storage, and how they would get her into that tote to begin with.
Okay. So it was a 55-gallon tote because I was originally told it was a 30 gallon tote.
No, it was a 55.
Okay.
I I
Okay.
I I even have a picture of the officer standing next to the tote. And I gave information to uh, the detectives about them researching where that tote was purchased, because it still had a sticker on it. And then we had heard later where that tote was sitting that they used it from. And it just so happens that all the people that we suggested tips on, they had in for questioning.
Right. Mm-mm-mm. So, what are the roadblocks that you, the family, have come across in trying to get justice for Troy? What's going on there? Like with the DA's office and stuff. And I know that y'all have a family victims advocate.
So
Um,
to begin with, the prosecutor and the advocate should be working for Troy to get her justice, which in turn is us, her family, contacting them. And I don't feel like they're working for Troy. I feel like they're in it for whatever they can get out of it. And it seems to be all based on money. So that right there is a roadblock.
And
Also, the fact that his mother and his father and stepfather is in power is obvious roadblock. And the fact that they sealed all the records so that we can't prove things is a roadblock. And obviously, they don't want to speak with us anymore. The detectives, I think, as far as they're concerned, they have the killer and they have the two that did something to her, and they're satisfied with that conclusion, when we know that is not the case of what took place. And we know this because you do not hear stories, story after story, from so many people for so many hours, and there not be some truth to these stories. Some are elderly, some are young, some are, Troy's age, some are friends, some are family, some are, it doesn't matter what walk of life they are. If they have contacted us, they have told us some form of the story. And those stories, if you put them together, of course, it's all alleged, but if you put them together, you can draw a pretty good conclusion.
of what
And that,
happened.
and yes, and that's how they got the arrest to begin with. So,
You're talking about the drug arrest of Michael Lacey?
no, I'm talking about the arrest for murder.
Oh, from y'all. I'm sorry, I
Yes,
misunderstood there for a second, sweetie.
no, from us, giving them, uh, you know, every information that we got to help them sew up their uh, murder case. But now, as far as the drugs go, he had the first conviction. He got let out. Then he killed Troy. They arrested him on a second warrant, which they um, took the forensics and stuff out. And he was in prison again. And then he got out for a short time. And then he got arrested again May 16th, which he's now been in there since.
Right, on $1 million bail, by the way. He does have
Correct.
bail,
Correct.
sadly. Do
And
you think do you think that his mother being a quorum magistrate in the same building, in the same county, and his father or his stepfather, Roy Winfrey, being the mayor of Madison County, is which by the way, that Margaret Boyd Lacey Winfrey, his mother,
yes.
who is the quorum magistrate, her other son, Marcus Lacey, is in Texas prison serving 90 years for murder.
Yep.
Do you think that's why? Because they are prosecuting this case in Forest City, Arkansas, possibly?
I do believe that if he was not in this county, he would not just have first degree murder. And I do believe that um, it does have a conflict of interest. And I do believe that if it wasn't um, so close to home, it may have been handled differently. But this is what Hill told me. He said it did happen at the Buford house. It was over money. She was shot and killed, and her body was disposed of. That's the way he explained to me why uh, Lacey was charged with murder. He
Okay.
actually he actually called me to tell me the day he was being charged.
And
And
told you
that
that he was.
he told me he was being charged, and he told me this is what happened. He said it was at the Buford house. It was over money. She was shot and killed, and the body was disposed of. Those were his words.
Why do I find that so hard to believe just in what I have found?
Yeah, I don't believe a word of it. There, yes, it happened at the Buford house, but something happened before and something happened after. I do not believe it was over money. I believe that there's an ulterior motive for this, and I do believe he shot her, but I don't believe he killed her right away. And I do believe the body was disposed of because we know it was found in the tote. So he had to end that with that because that was a fact. It was on the side of the road in a tote. And so far, they have only charged somebody for abuse of a corpse, which would have been how the body got
Corey,
to the tote.
Corey
And the,
Anderson.
yep. And then um, Willie Calvin Smith, whose street name is Poncho, um, tampered with evidence. That could be anything.
That could be anything. Wow.
And so, even the abuse of a corpse, I believe the sentence is only 4 years.
It's a maximum of 6. I think I had it full. It's in. I added it. It's in one of my videos what the sentencing on that is. The
Hmm.
abuse of a corpse, but I don't remember. But you're correct. It's somewhere between 4 and 6 years. I
Yep.
mean, it's nothing. It's nothing.
And tampering with evidence is not a, um, a long term sentence. I don't
Okay.
know exactly what it is, but it's ridiculous is what it is. It's ridiculous that these group of guys can do something like this and this is all that's charged. And it just so happens those are the four names. There's another fourth person who hasn't been charged with the murder, but I'm sure there's a reason for that too.
Well, it should also be charged as capital murder on the fact that Michael Lacey was a felon in the possession of a firearm when he
Correct.
murdered Troy.
That is correct. And he shouldn't have been out on bond or anything because he was already arrested.
Right, but mommy's a quorum judge, so she can call the district court judge and be like, "Hey, set a bond. I'll deal with him." And then mommy didn't deal with him, and mm-mm-mm. And now Troy's gone because of it.
Hmm.
So, why do you think? What do you believe is the reason that this happened to Troy? That Michael Lacey did this?
Well, um, I have my suspicions. I have no actual proof because things are sealed, but I can't. Um,
Is it okay if I ask you questions?
sure,
Is it true that Michael Lacey got arrested and was in jail with the Mr. Christopher Davenport?
that is true.
And is it also true? And I know it is, but just for verification, because I have the documents. Is it true that Christopher Davenport and Michael Lacey were both arrested on drug charges with the same CI as the person that bought for police officers?
Yes, those are all facts.
And is it true? Now we know that your family had contact with Troy on February the 2nd. So we know she was alive on February the 2nd. And Michael Lacey got out on February the 6th. Is it true that they refuse to release information about Troy Strope to her, about her to you, her family?
That is true.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I asked, is am I going to tell Troy's children or are they going to tell Troy's children that Lacey has been arrested? And before they put it public, I wanted her children to know. And they said that Dale Arnold was going to call them. And he did call Lathan and tell Lathan. And I spoke to Lathan, and then I made sure that the other two children knew. And I asked, what was the date that she died? And they would not tell us. They would not go into any, uh, they always say it's an ongoing investigation and we cannot give any information out.
But they know the exact date she died because they have a signed written confession. And I know that once again because Dale Arnold told me that himself. A signed written confession from Michael Lacey.
Right. And they have to know, but they haven't told us.
Wow. So, what do you think about the treatment that you received from the prosecuting attorney? Uh, what do you think? What I'm not the prosecuting attorney, but what do you think about the treatment that your family has received from the sheriff's department?
So, from the sheriff's department, they want to be informed. Any tips we have, we can make their job easy by giving them any information. But as far as telling us anything, they didn't want to, share that information back. We always got the same thing. Unless I asked, did you find the video? That's when I got, what we got was a cleanup video, and that was probably more information than they did tell me also that the video of Troy was made in the Regency Hotel. Now, those are things they told me that I was surprised they told me, because usually what I got, and every time I started my conversation, the same thing is anything new on the case. This is Eve Dillman, and I would get hello, Mrs. Dillman. Sometimes I would get hello, Mrs. Dillman, just from my phone number. I didn't even have to say who I was on the phone. And then I would say, I'm calling to find out if there's been any new leads. Do you need any, have you got anything more new on the case? And every time I would get the same answer. I would get, no, ma'am, we can't discuss anything because it's an ongoing investigation, until the very end when he was arresting Lacey. He said, we served him the warrant. He's been charged with first degree murder. And then he read the other two charges, which, one is about the weapon, and it really, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to go anywhere. The prosecutor told us that they were going to take him in front of the judge with only the charges for drugs, so that they could get him turned over, uh, put onto the state. If
Mhm.
they could get him to plead guilty for a year and a day, then he becomes the state's responsibility, even though he will stay at their prison, their jail. They would
Mhm.
uh, pay them $40 a day to house him, and he could get the hernia surgery that he needed.
So, what can we do to help aside from sharing Troy's story? What can we do to help? Like, what are the obstacles that you, the family, have in your path to lead you from getting the answers that you deserve and that Troy
So,
deserves and
so we were
justice?
we were told that if we get an attorney, he can file forms to tell us, the CI, um, because Troy's deceased.
Yes, which
We,
makes it a federal law that her CI number has to be turned over to the family.
correct, and but we have to do it through an attorney. We also have been told that we need an attorney to go in there on behalf of our family for Troy, to get justice. And so far, we have not had any luck with attorneys. They either hang up or just find out that it's St. Francis County and want nothing to do with it. So we are trying now to raise money on our GoFundMe page, which I hope you don't mind. I say this today. I
No, I actually meant for you to send me the link so I could put it up. I'm so sorry.
So it's GoFundMe.com, and you put in Troy Strope, Strope, and it should come up. And I today asked on our group page, which is also called Justice for Troy Strope, I put, I donated $43 for her 43rd birthday to try to get her justice. And does anybody else want to join me? And I do know that there has been a few uh, $43 donations. And so I thank everybody who gives anything, because right now we're trying to raise money for an attorney to try to get some help in the legal side of it, because we are getting nowhere with what should be helping her, which is the prosecutor trying to get justice. It should be the advocate working on behalf of the family. and
Absolutely.
and I personally do not feel we are getting any of that.
Well, I'm not going to lie, and you know this, Eve. When I first started covering Troy's case, I was doing all of my investigation and stuff, and I made a phone call to Dale Arnold. But I've also talked to Mr. Hill. I talked to Mr. Hill first. By the way, Mr. Hill was lovely, and he really seemed like he wanted justice for Troy, and that he actually cared about her as a person. Dale Arnold completely 360 flip from the person Mr. Hill is,
Yep.
between him and
Well,
Dale Arnold.
I think I shared this with you. I tried to talk to Dale Arnold, but he was pretty pompous, and all he wanted to do was say he knows everything and he has everything. So then when I called back later to talk with the detectives, I got Travis Hill, and I told him, I will speak to you, but I will not be calling Dale. And he said, that is fine. So he was congenial. He was trying to um, share what he could, but 90% of the time, like I said, all we got was they can't give us anything because it's an ongoing investigation. Well, now we were told they don't think there's going to be any more arrests. That was said by the advocate. So if there isn't going to be any more arrests, then it's not an ongoing investigation. So why haven't they talked to the family?
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe the treatment. Well, not only that, but he's also said some really horrible things to me specifically.
Yeah, he called us what, clout chasers or
Clout
something.
chasers, and said y'all did, and excuse my language, but I'm only repeating what he said. Y'all didn't give a damn about Troy. Come to find out, you all live in different states, and her parents are dead, and the only remaining family she has is her three children and y'all.
All he thought was no one gave a damn about Troy, and he found out differently. And that's his problem. He also wants to belittle us because he has been belittled, because he says stupid things and he will put stuff out there and we will call him on it, and he's embarrassed by it. So now the attack is on us.
Absolutely, and I've seen that with my own two eyes. I've seen that. Me and Linda and Mary Lou have been talking for a little while, and I told Mary Lou, look, I don't want anything to do with anyone. I'm not doing any interviews until I find out what's going on here myself. But I have to tell you, Eve, I support you 100%. I have done the research and put in the time, and I know that your family is not getting the justice that they deserve after the horrible things. And I'm not going to repeat them because it's worse than awful. What I've been told by people out of Forest City that happened to poor Troy, it blows my mind, and that's just in random people. And whenever you're going to random people for interviews and they all start saying the same thing, and then you hear that from family members verbatim what was told to me in Forest City when y'all aren't even in Forest City, y'all live out of state.
Correct. We all live out of state, and they all contact us because they don't want to go to the police station, and they don't want to be uh, talked down to, like Dale Arnold talked down to even me trying to call him and give him some information. And I was done with that. You don't talk down to me. And as far as clout chasers, the he has to be only talking about our Facebook, but we had to start a Facebook so that we could communicate with the people down there because we lived out of state. As a matter of fact, the only time we have been on any media at all other than our page is with Channel 3 for Reward, Justice Arkansas Crime, and Reg- Regina and Hollis originally, um,
Yes.
you guys. And that is it. And believe me, there we could be reaching out to higher and not higher. We could be reaching out to nationwide to try to get the story out there, which may end up happening at some point if
I
we do
hope it
not
does. I
if
hope it
we
does.
if we don't get justice, we're going to be forced to take it to another level. And here's another thing: we have nothing to gain by this. It takes all of our time, it takes our expenses, it takes our efforts, and it makes us sick on a daily basis. We have nothing to gain by this except for getting trust justice for Troy. And I meant what I said earlier. If she was alive and this was a person she knew, she would be doing the same thing. She would be trying her hardest to make sure every detail would be known.
I know she would. I've personally seen her go to bat for people through her Facebook and everything. I mean, I've seen it with my own two eyes. She was kind of a cheerleader for the little guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
For the underdog.
I only say what I know is a fact. So if I don't hear it with my own ears and eyes, see it with my own eyes, um, then then I say, how do I find out if this is real? But it gets to the point where it's been said so much by so many people. It might vary a little in the story. Somebody changed something. It's kind of like phone tag, where it becomes different towards the end because somebody added something, whatever, or heard it different, or heard it from someone else who heard it different. But when most of the details all line up, you got to ask yourself, is this real? You got to
Yeah,
ask yourself, you know all these people can't be wrong.
yeah. And
We
I
have
tell you what,
videos, we have conversations, we have instant messengers, we have phone calls, we have so much data, and it takes so much time that for them to think we get anything out of this, they're absurd.
they have to be. Well, not only that, but there is no such thing as a gain from a loss of someone like Troy. There's not.
There isn't. And for him
It's
to
not.
think that we think we're going to have some kind of gain from this, that tells you right there how disturbed the guy is.
Yeah. Well, he was so busy bragging on himself and about he's been doing this for 20 years and he knows how to handle a case. And I mean, these are things he said to me when I was on the phone with him. And I
Well,
sent
the
you,
prosecutor tooted his horn too. He said, "I've known him for 30 years, and we've worked together, and he's never sent me up a case that I couldn't win, and blah blah blah." And then I cut him off, and I started asking him questions. What happens next? What happens with Troy? I don't give a hoot about Dale Arnold or how long he's been doing anything or what a
same.
pompous ass he is. I don't care. The fact is, I care about what should be happening and what's going to happen next.
You know what I hope doesn't happen next? And I honestly believe this, especially after him standing up in court and saying guilty as a F
Yep.
before they could even ask him a question.
Yep.
Um,
Did you hear his last response? The
no,
last court
the acoustics in that courtroom are terrible.
the last response was, "Why are y'all making me wait to plead when I know I'm only gonna plead guilty and I'm only gonna spend 9 months and 3 days in jail?"
Oh
That
my
was his
God.
last response.
I heard something about 9 months and 3 days, but I couldn't hear all of it because, like I said, first of all, they don't want you to hear anything in that courtroom.
Of course not. Of course not.
They wouldn't even let us take a pencil and piece of paper in to take notes.
Right, because they don't want you to have your facts written down.
Sammy got there the day before I did, that Tuesday after the 22nd when he stood up in court and said guilty as F.
Yep.
Sammy met me at the courthouse that Tuesday with her lovely husband. She has such a lovely family, by the way. She's here with us listening in. Um, and they wouldn't let her even take a notepad and a pencil or a pen. They won't let you record anything unless you have written specific from the judge permission, but they're denying anyone permission that is trying to record or anything. They deny everyone.
Yeah, there's a reason that they don't want the details to come out. That is pretty obvious. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that something else is going on. Now, what exactly that is will be hard to prove because this is the struggle you were talking about, them sealing the records and sealing every document. Every document that has anything to do with Troy's case only has a generic description. Up
Yes,
into his murder, his filing papers, every single thing.
I've seen it myself. I have the documents. You're absolutely correct. Everything is so generic. The only thing that's not generic and actually tells the story of what happened to Troy are the documents involving Micah's first arrest and Christopher Davenport, in my opinion. But I understand that y'all are struggling. Listen, you guys, we need to help this family. They need an attorney. They need an attorney that is willing to take this case from St. Francis County, Arkansas. They are battling corruption. They are battling politicians, literally. They have nothing but an uphill fight. And that's why we're here tonight to do anything and everything that we can to help this family. I'm not, y'all know I study law, but I'm not a licensed attorney. So we're putting the call out tonight. Eve, if it's okay, I'd like to discuss the reward money that y'all are now willing to apply for an attorney, correct?
So we're trying to raise money for an attorney. Yes.
Okay. And Aunt Linda, sorry. Linda told me
It
that
call her Aunt Linda. That's Troy's aunt.
okay, okay, Aunt Linda. Right, Troy's Aunt Linda
Yeah.
told me that y'all put up, you are the family members that collected the $2,000 reward and still have it to put towards an attorney for Troy. But y'all are the family members that put up got the reward through GoFundMe and stuff and put it up for answers. And then you found out they already had the answers, basically, but they're not telling you. Um,
Correct. And we had to wait for them to give us permission to go live with that reward. At first, they were like, "We still have questioning to do," and I said, "Okay, just let me know when." And so a couple of weeks passed, and I had called again, and he said, "Yeah, now would be a good time to put the reward money up there." So at first, it was $1,000. Then we raised some more money, and it was $2,000. And then even trying to get the newspaper to, which is what they gave me to try to put the reward in there, the newspaper, local newspaper, wanted us to use it like an ad so we could pay for it instead of a follow-up story on Troy to say this is what we're offering as a reward.
right.
So,
Mm.
so the monies that we have, to best of my knowledge right now, they there was no tip by a person that came forward that's going to get that reward money. But we also need to raise more to get an attorney, and that's what we're trying to do now.
Right. Um, I'll probably get the call tomorrow. I'm hoping. I have reached out to several attorneys, some of
Wonderful.
them out of state, and hopefully, well, a victims advocate and civil rights attorney starting off with, because I'm sorry, but I feel like your civil rights have been violated, um, with what Dale Arnold has said about your family, and I believe you have a lawsuit there. I'm just going to put that out there for you. Um, I think you have a huge lawsuit there against Mr. Dale Arnold. Um, but I've been reaching out to different attorneys, and I'm waiting on some calls back. Um, but if we could get an attorney to either take the case pro bono, or we could raise the money for an attorney, you guys, this would be the best help that we can give Troy's family. This
That would
is the
be awesome.
best. Sorry, go ahead.
I said that would be awesome.
So here's the GoFundMe link, and you guys know I'm not a GoFundMe person. Y'all
And I am
know
not either. I am not a GoFundMe person.
I know you're not. I know you're not. But I know, Eve. I know this is legitimate. I know everything. I've done all the research, all the background, everything. I have seen these people in court with my own two eyes.
Thank you.
I know who they are. I
Thank you
know who
for
they are.
the research that you did too,
For what?
for the research that you had done.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And I'm not happy with what's happened to your family at all. Eve, everyone deserves better than this. And let me tell you something, you guys. The reason that this is so important, whether you realize it or not, is because if Michael Lacey is not ac- accurately charged with the capital murder that he committed, he is going to be out in what, 9 months and 3 days?
That's what he said.
That's what
But
he said.
that's right. But even if he gets, if he pleads guilty and he gets, he'll get a low sentence if he pleads guilty. So he thinks. I don't know the fact for sure. But 15 years. And even if he served half of that, even if he served it all, he's going to be back on Forest City streets when he gets out, and he's going to do it
Doing
again.
this to another person. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, I completely agree. He has um, no, what's the word I'm looking for? He has
Regard
no
for
value for
life.
human life at
That's
all.
right. No
At
regard for
all.
human life.
Not to mention, if you look in his criminal history, Eve, if you look in his criminal history, he has so many felonies, revocations of probations, violent felonies, battery, everything else. And they're just, he gets a little smack on the hand. It's like every time in Forest City, Arkansas. He gets a little smack on the hand and then turned right back out on the street
And I wonder why. That's
because
being,
mommy is an
yeah,
elected.
that was being facetious. Yes, I know.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly why. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy not just to your family, but anyone else if he gets out on the streets again. Because I don't want to be sitting here interviewing another family who has lost someone they love because of this monster. I don't want that to happen. I don't
And
think I could do it. I
that
don't think I could do it. Go ahead, Eve. I'm sorry.
I said I appreciate that.
There's no justice. If there's no justice for Troy, there's no justice for any of us. So I have Sammy with us. She
Okay,
is my co-host, and she has been dying to talk to you, Miss Evie. Would you be willing to talk to her for a few minutes?
sure.
Sammy, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi there, Eve. I'm so sorry you guys are going through this. And I was absolutely shocked at the level of corruption there seems to be. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. I'm disgusted by the treatment y'all are receiving as a family, and it's shameful. But we're here and we're going to do all we can to help you get the word out because we've got to get justice for Troy. This is just atrocious. I lost an auntie um, in a really bad way, and she died similarly. But I totally can relate to that, and I just wish I could hug you right now. Um,
I
and I want
appreciate
to say
that.
happy birthday to Troy.
That's very nice. I wish I could hug her and tell her happy birthday.
I know you do, even. I'm so sorry. But I can promise you this, and I know this in my heart of hearts. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Christian and I'm trying to comfort you. I know this in my soul. I know Troy is, I know she's good now. I know she's okay. And I know that she is in the most beautiful, wonderful place she has ever been. And she has such peace in her heart. And you know what? She's filled with peace knowing that she has you, her family, fighting for her.
Thank you.
And she's looking down on you and she is smiling because you know why? Because she knows she's loved. And I promise you she loves you too. I've seen a lot. You know, I've been talking to Aunt Linda. I know I've heard some beautiful stories. I've heard some wonderful things, and I gotta say, I feel like I got to know her a little bit through Facebook, but I can't imagine what you know. She was like. I bet she was larger than life with that smile everyone tells me about. And I'm so sorry that this has happened to y'all.
Thank you. And yes, she was larger than life with that smile. Happy birthday, Troy.
Happy birthday, Aunt Linda. Is there any? I said Aunt Linda. She's thinking about me. Uh,
Uh-huh.
um, Eve. Um, is there anything else that you would like to add before we go, or anything else that you would like to say? And tell us how we can help let Troy's light live on.
Well, I would like to say thank you for even taking time to air her story. And we need more of that so that they realize that people do care about her and her life does matter. Also, we are on the GoFundMe page. You can get a shirt that says Justice for Troy. You can get a bag. You can get a pencil case. You're going to be able to buy a bandana that says Justice for Troy Strope. And there's going to be eventually some yard signs placed. So you're going to start seeing bumper stickers, all kinds of things all over Forest City area. And anybody that wants to help with that can let us know because we're going to be distributing them to everyone down there. And of course, we're not there, so that makes it a little difficult, but we do have a lot of people who love Troy that are willing to help as well.
And you
And
got me
so,
and Sammy, girl. You got me and Sammy.
and I,
Absolutely.
I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah.
I appreciate that. And I just want to say that we appreciate everyone who helps and everyone that donates and everyone who gives us any of their time because we know how much time it takes to do something like this.
Right. And for those of us, I know, especially with the economy being like it is, you guys, even for those of us that don't have the means to donate, another way that you can help is by calling the district attorney's office, by calling Marguerite Boyd Lacey Winfrey, the judge, and asking her why is it because she is a quorum judge. It is her responsibility to respond to the public. Flood the district attorney's office with calls for Troy.
Yep.
Flood, flood everywhere you know. Any auditor, anything like that that you can think of, send them this link. Any attorneys, YouTube attorneys alike, any attorneys that y'all know that might be interested in helping Troy's family, it would be greatly appreciated if you would get that information to me. My Discord link is on the community page. And I promise you that information will go straight to the family. It will go to Eve and it will go to Linda.
Thank you
And
very
these are the ways that we can help.
Thank you very much. You ladies have a nice evening.
Thank you, Eve. I'm sorry I took up so much of your time.
Oh no, you're
And
fine. Have a good night.
you
Bye,
too,
Sam.
honey. God
Bye, Sam.
bless you.
Bye bye. You have a nice evening.
You too. Bye.
What a lovely, lovely soul.
That had to be really difficult for her. I'm
I
really,
know it
really
was.
thankful and grateful that she came on with us and gave us that time and kind of let everybody know a little bit more about Troy.
Yeah. And you know what? It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that they loved her so much that she really does live on, even through all of this. And it's terrible that they're not being treated the way. Look, Sammy, wouldn't we all want to be treated with dignity and respect and informed if it was our loved one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was under the impression there was a true victim advocate out there that might be available to them on occasion, at least, to help them through this. I don't know how that works, but it's not looking good.
Look at the joy. That's Troy when she was little, you guys, with her grandpa. Oh, that's beautiful.
I was having troubles getting to my phone to unmute. Sorry
Oh,
about that at the end there.
oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
It's okay. Well, it was an issue I didn't anticipate.
Well, there's a little bit of a delay in StreamYard.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit of delay in StreamYard, and that accounts for part of it too. So whenever you are like between it and YouTube, and see, I'm also listening to the YouTube feed as well on low while
Oh
I'm
yeah.
doing. Yeah, so it's all delayed for me, and then I get it, I hear it, and then it's delayed again my response. So it's like,
Oh yeah.
but you guys, GoFundMe.com/Troy Strope. You can also just go to GoFundMe.com and look up Troy Strope, and it's the only GoFundMe for Troy Strope. Y'all know I don't usually advocate for GoFundMe's. Typically, y'all know how against them I am. But after the research I've done and actually getting to know Troy's family and stuff, they need our help. So
Well,
I'm not saying you have
You
to.
heard her say that they will not be heard unless they have a lawyer.
Yep. They will not be heard unless they have a lawyer. So
That
if
is so wrong.
it's so wrong, it's so wrong, but every penny helps, you guys. Um, I'm going to be going over there and donating to it too. So that tells y'all how legitimate I know it is, or else I wouldn't donate to it. Y'all know I don't usually do GoFundMe's, but this is for the right thing. So please help. Make the phone calls. The district attorney's office of Forest City, Arkansas. Troy needs justice. Because let me tell you something, if Troy doesn't get justice, this man is going to be back out on the street, and it's going to be one of our loved ones next. I don't want to be sitting here interviewing another family member that was brutally murdered by this man just because his mom is a corn judge. I do not want to do that. I do not want to do that. And we can prevent that. Justice for Troy Strope. Share it everywhere you go. Say her name. Get the word out there. Put her story out there. Let's get it known. Let's get it known. Troy Alexandria Strope. Justice for Troy Strope. Sammy, is there anything you want to add, lovely, before we go?
No, I just want to say thank you for doing the interview. And I really do appreciate her family's time. And I know how much This is at their doorstep every day. So I just want to tell them, I'm wishing them the best of luck with this, but I'm going to do my part as a citizen to try to help them get this word out and to be present and let the law enforcement, the DOJ know that citizens have rights and we're out there and we're watching. The world is watching. The world is watching.
Yeah, it is. We're watching Forest City. Justice for Troy. Justice for Troy, straight up. Justice for Troy is justice for all of us. That's the truth. Miss Eve, I appreciate your time so much tonight. I know that it was especially difficult because it was Troy's birthday. And I just want you to know I appreciate you being a light and telling Troy's story and being a voice for her. You are an amazing family. And I can only pray that if anything like this ever happens to me, that the people that I love me enough to fight as hard for me as you are, Troy. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Sammy, is there anything else you want to add before we call it?
Good night, y'all, and thank you for coming. Thank you for listening later. Thank you all.
Yes, and if you guys wouldn't mind, please hit that like, subscribe, and share this video everywhere. Let's get justice for Troy. Um, and it really helps to get this information out there. Just hitting that like, just hitting, that thumbs up on that video and sharing it. Even if you don't subscribe to the channel, please help us get justice for Troy. And with that said, you guys, it is really dangerous out here. It's really dangerous out here. Lock your windows and your doors and be the first line of defense for you and your family because it may be all you have sometimes. Just like with Troy Strope, it's if it weren't for her family, I don't think there would be any chance for justice. There wouldn't be any chance for justice. There wouldn't be any justice for any of us. So, with that said, you guys, share a smile and save a life. Kindness is free, and you never know, the life you save might even just be your own. And with that said, thank you for joining us. Blessings and good night.